digging into Aidan Shaffer. He was involved with research in field effect propulsion, exotic propulsion, basically the same things that Amy Eskridge was working on. And it's pretty crazy. On May 21st, 2026, Dream Investigative Journalism crossed the threshold it has avoided for decades. Los Angeles Magazine published a breaking feature detailing a story that the independent physics community has been whispering about in terror. And it's the mysterious death of UFO researcher and alternative propulsion scientist Aidan Shaffer. And according to official reports, Shaffer was abruptly taken into custody on unspecified felony charges. But it's what happened before his intake and the chilling electronic trail he left behind that has forced true crime investigators and national media to look at a much darker picture. Before he went silent, Shaffer put out frantic public cries for help across his social networks, explicitly stating that his phone had been deeply hacked, his location compromised, and his life placed in immediate danger. Tonight, we aren't just looking at a tragic headline, we're mapping a systematic playbook, because what happened to Aidan Shaffer mirrors point for point the exact targeted harassment and suspicious passing of aerospace physicist Dr. Amy Eskridge in 2022. Now, is there a shadow protocol designed to eliminate public domain anti-gravity research? So let's dig into the data.
And as it turns out, there is an obituary of sorts for him on the internet, but once you see it, it will probably make sense to you as to why I couldn't find it. So this is on the Riviera Family Funeral Home website, and it says, in loving memory of Martin Aidan Shaffer. Now, it's not the fact that obviously he went by Aidan and that was in fact his middle name that had basically stopped me from finding this. It's because this isn't how you spell his name at all. It says A-I-D-E-N. He went by A-I-D-A-N. It says Martin Shaffer with a C. He's never once put a C in his name. I even looked into his family because sometimes people do make little adjustments like this, and from what I can tell, nobody went by Shaffer with a C. And so I'm not trying to be super conspiratorial here, but this is weird. I mean, this happened 2 months ago and nobody really knows about it. And if you're going to make multiple spelling mistakes in his name, then it's going to make it pretty hard for anybody to get answers if they do get curious about what happened to him. And if this isn't some sort of tactic to sort of deflect people away from being able to get a hold of this, but still kind of say you have put something out there, then it begs the question about who made this? How well could they possibly have known him? I just find this really weird. And then if you look down here where it says 1976, where's the date of his birth? This is just so impersonal to me. It's can't get his name right, don't know his birthday. This is his obituary. And so if we scroll down again, this is what we get for his obituary. One sentence. But note here again how his first name is spelled incorrectly, but they have removed the C from Shaffer for his last name. But all we get is Aidan Shaffer passed away March 6th. A memorial will be held for Aidan, spelt wrong again, on Saturday, June 27th at Red Willow Park, formerly Kit Carson Park, at 1 p.m. Nothing about his life or who he was as a person, anything that he'd ever done, anything that he'd ever achieved, nothing about how he died, no expression of condolences. I don't really know what to say. I also think it's weird that if he died in March... Just jumping in from the future here because I noticed another strange tidbit when I went back to the account that originally confirmed that Aidan had passed away. And around 2 weeks ago, they'd posted a screenshot of the obituary. Now, I obviously went to look at it online, but if you look carefully at the bottom of this screenshot, the original date of death was April. So I don't know what to make of that, but it's gone from the 6th of April now to the 6th of March. Why is his memorial being held at the end of June? And who do you expect to attend if nobody knows that the man's died? And
to understand why someone would target a researcher like Shaffer, you have to look at what he was building. Shaffer wasn't an armchair theorist. He was a highly capable builder and a knowledge bearer of field effect propulsion and advanced manufacturing. He was an active contributor to Mark Sokol's Falcon Space Laboratory, the epicenter of open-source civilian attempts to replicate UAP flight mechanics. Shaffer stepped onto the APEC stage to present specialized research on metallurgy and multi-layer metallic compounds. In the world of crash retrievals and anomalous physics, these specific material architectures are considered the holy grail, metamaterials engineered at the microscopic level to manipulate gravitational and electromagnetic fields. And by working with Falcon Space, Shaffer was actively trying to take these highly classified concepts out of military, industrial black budgets and drop them directly into the public domain. Very, very similar to what Dr. Amy Eskridge was doing. And it's strange how she was connected with Mark Sokol and Falcon Space as well. But what does that mean? You know, your guess is as good as mine. Is it evidence that when these researchers get close to cracking this technology, there's some kind of effort to take them down? So according to this investigative breakdown by LA Magazine, the trap closed in early 2026. Shaffer began experiencing severe technical anomalies. He explicitly warned his inner circle and his followers that his devices were fully compromised. In the digital age, hacking a target's phone isn't just about stealing data, it's about isolation. It's about cutting off a researcher's ability to communicate or call for help, while creating a digital paper trail that can be used to make them look unstable. Then came the escalation. Shaffer was placed under felony arrest for independent researcher operating under immense stress. A sudden legal vacuum is the ultimate blind spot. He entered a local lockup facility, and shortly thereafter, he was dead. Even now, journalists are highlighting glaring discrepancies in local records over whether his death officially occurred in March or April of 2026. The information is being tightly held, forcing independent media to demand immediate transparency. We're not sure if there was an autopsy or a toxicology report. We're not even sure what he was arrested on. All we really know is that he was taken into custody and he died. I heard some claims that it was something that had to do with burglary or something, but like I said, I don't know. That's the one thing that's eerily similar between his case and Dr. Amy Eskridge's case is this digital harassment, the hacking. And this is where the coincidence theory completely falls apart. You can't talk about Aidan Shaffer without looking at the ghost that haunts Falcon Space, and that's Dr. Amy Eskridge. Because Amy was a phenomenal aerospace physicist working on non-conventional propulsion. And before her tragic passing in 2022, she went public with terrifying accounts of structured harassment, espionage-type attacks. She explicitly detailed how her phones were tapped, her home was under physical surveillance, and her research team was being systematically intimidated to force them to abandon their work. And both Eskridge and Shaffer operated in the exact same tight-knit alternative propulsion metric. Both were making serious headway outside government oversight, and both met sudden, tragic ends right when their digital accounts began flashing warnings of immediate and external threats. And this isn't a series of isolated tragedies. It is a template for suppression. Aidan Shaffer now makes, 17 unexplained deaths and people going missing, disappearances and deaths in the last couple of months. In the last few years, but it's been exposed in the last couple of months, which is just, it's crazy that you're getting this many, it's a pattern. And that's what Nancy Grace says. It's a pattern.
Has been done to me. I want my agency back. This life is not mine to live. And so we get this video, and there is sound, but I've just muted it for now, where he's explaining that he's got these fingerprint bruises that are, as you can see, where he's grabbing on his leg that he has woken up with, and he was having some sort of really weird dream. This is, again, very synonymous with a lot of this abduction experiencer type thing, where it's almost like a false induced dream state, and then he sort of senses something's wrong and ultimately feels as though there is a big pressure on his leg. And then he wakes up and sees this. And then he's attached this photo where I'm not sure if this is a burn or a mark from where something's been inserted. I'm not sure. And then there's this one, and obviously there's no context for the photos. They're just attached to that one tweet. And I don't know what happened, but obviously within the framework of what his tweet said, I guess he feels as though these marks on his body did not come at his own hands. And last we have this one where he's put a triangle around the mark. He's also got that red mark on the side of his arm as well that looks like some sort of burn. So I'm not sure what any of this is, and ultimately we now have no way of ever knowing. I've also pulled this tweet from Christmas Eve 2025. Working out listening to ultrasonic noise from my NHI implant, pressure changes in my ear canal, and barely audible conversation. I did not agree to this situation. Once again, if you've looked into any of this mind control research surrounding direct energy weapons and also the implants, then this is just classic. Pressure changes in the ear canal, the ultrasonic noise, and then eventually hearing this like very mumbly conversation. I'm going to post a link to a channel in the description called Look Out for Charlie. I think if you want to know more, that would be one of the places to go. All right, this one is from November 2025. Grok is a lot of fun to talk to if you have a complex geopolitical issue lodged in your cranium, like an NHI psionic implant. This one's from January 2026, waking up to buzzing and night terrors. Again, it's this buzzing that he's hearing that's just synonymous with some sort of energy weapon that's being deployed against him, or maybe he genuinely did have an implant. It's not like they've gone extinct. So this is in a response to an account that says, if you could send a message to an alien civilization, what would you say? And in November 2025, he responded, take these fucking implants out of me, or give me the ones that stops telepathy. So I think it's clear that he was hearing voices, and whether or not you're dealing with somebody that thinks that there is a demon at play here, or that they've been abducted and that they are now getting channeled messages, even if you were dealing with one of these rogue criminals that does something mental and then they turn around and say, yeah, I don't know why I did that, I just got told in my head to do it, or these like school shooter types. And I'm telling you, wherever you look, you're going to see the same thing. When these people hear voices, rarely does it end well. And I know a lot of people in this space won't like me saying this, but I'm sorry, I don't think it's aliens, at least not 95% of the time. I also don't think that you should just slap on a paranoid schizophrenic label either, because although it's undeniable that that could be the case sometimes, we just seem to keep ignoring that the technology is available to actually do this to someone. And this wasn't a problem in the past. This rise in people that have like a synthetic tinnitus and are having all of this pressure in their head and are also hearing voices or think that they're in communication with something should probably not align with when the powers that be started researching and developing this stuff too. I tend to think that if there was nothing there, then there wouldn't be a correlation. But there always is.
But so Aidan Shaffer, he went to the University of New Mexico. He studied business administration with an academic focus on sustainability, spaceports, and UFO UAP related concepts. And University of Boulder, Colorado, he studied astrophysics and astronomy. And Shaffer was an aerospace enthusiast and UFO UAP researcher active in alternative propulsion research circles. His work primarily focused on field effect propulsion. He was associated with Falcon Space, which is an open source propulsion startup working towards spaceflight using field effect propulsion until 2023. And then there was some type of spat or split with them. Not really sure what happened there. But he was deeply involved in UFO and UAP research and that community, and he was deeply involved in exploring these alternative aerospace concepts. Um, but the fact that he was kind of crying out for help and saying that his phone was hacked and that he was being threatened and harassed leading up to this is just alarming, right? And the fact that he was taken into custody for an alleged felony that we really don't have the details on is also alarming. The fact that we really don't have a cause of death other than they said a heart attack, but while he was being questioned, is one of the things that Nancy Grace had claimed when I watched her show, and I'm going to leave a clip from that show also because she actually interviewed the chick from Liminality podcast. I'll leave a link in the description for her. She's doing really great work on this. Sorry, I called her a chick. I hope she doesn't watch this. I just don't. Let me find her name. Actually, I feel like a bozo for calling her a chick. But anyway, she did really great work. On this story. She's actually the one that kind of broke it, man, which is kind of cool, man. I like seeing these, independent news, independent researchers and sources like Liminality digging into these and putting this puzzle together because I think if it wasn't for people like us and her, these stories wouldn't even get out. Um, the story I did on Amy Eskridge was probably, one of the most disturbing stories I ever did. And for some reason, just because Aidan Shaffer's a male, it for whatever reason, it doesn't quite hit me the same way that Amy Eskridge's does, but it needs to, because listen, man, he was obviously a victim of some serious harassment, and you know, he didn't deserve that just for trying to break this field effect propulsion and possibly release free energy to the world. This is a serious case, man, and it's something that we need to seriously dig into. And we can't let this go by the wayside and be forgotten by these distractions like the Middle East, or these US UFO.gov files that the Department of War is releasing, because I'm really not happy with those either. Um, it's a shame, man. All these people, everybody from Matthew Sullivan to Aidan Shaffer, Amy Eskridge, all these people, even David Wilcock, look, he was controversial, but I really feel that his intentions were good. He just got caught up with Corey Good, and it just destroyed his reputation. And it's just a shame. And there's claims that he was victim of online bullying and threats, and that he was already kind of mentally unstable. So it's just a shame, man. But Mark Sokol, who is the head of Falcon Space, him and Shaffer, I guess, they appeared to experience some sort of falling out, which is strange because I believe Falcon Space and Amy Eskridge also had a falling out prior to her death. And Shaffer made on social media, he made some allegations accusing Sokol of attempted manslaughter by allegedly throwing him into traffic years earlier. So apparently, this dust up between Mark Sokol of Falcon Space and Shaffer was pretty big. Not really sure what happened to that. Um, and I wasn't able to locate any, police reports or records related to those claims. Um, but further raising eyebrows is Falcon Space official X account posted in February of 2025, referring to Shaffer as an idiot in connection with an alleged tip made to the FBI, or uranium and aliens. Uranium and aliens. This was a tip that Shaffer allegedly made to the FBI about Falcon Space, which I'm not really sure what that was about. Um, but the ex post notes that the FBI had to have a wider conversation with Shaffer amid the investigation. So, what did Shaffer share with the FBI? That's the question. Beginning in late 2025 and continuing into early 2026, prior to his reported death, Shaffer posted increasingly alarming messages on social media, and he alleged that local New Mexico authorities were corrupt and connected to criminal cartel related activity that resulted in the deaths of members of his family. Shaffer also wrote about hearing voices telling him to unalive himself, claimed extraterrestrials were abusing or controlling him, and suggested he no longer had control over his own body. The post bore chilling similarities to allegations and psychological struggles previously described by late anti-gravity researcher Dr. Amy Eskridge before her death. So this is just wild, man. And this kind of touches on my touching the third rail series, where we dig into these things, because I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Three Body Problem, and it was a book. It was actually Chinese, but it was about, roughly, I'm going to give you a rough summary about what it was about, but it was about like an approaching alien civilization coming to Earth, and I guess they were going to invade or whatever. But they were traveling across space, so they hadn't arrived here yet, but they were actually controlling the minds of our scientists and interfering with our scientific advancements, because they didn't want us to crack certain technologies that we could use to defend ourselves when they arrived. Look, that's out there. I'm not saying that's what this is. I'm just saying it's an interesting data point that you have that book, which is required reading for people who are in high-end intelligence agencies and fields that are researching this subject, that book is like required reading. And I often say, like, if these entities are interdimensional and they can act, if they are atemporal, which means they kind of exist outside of our time space metric, but can interfere with it, um, which has been alleged in the slide 9 from AATIP. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. I did an episode about that, but slide 9 was this slide. It was, I guess for a presentation or whatever AATIP had, OSAP, and they talked about this type of technology, right? Um, it makes you wonder, dude, and it really makes you wonder about things like Havana syndrome. Now, could this just be humans doing these things? And I would think that possibly be the case, but even that, right? Who's to say that they're not being manipulated or controlled by an entity that's or entities that exist outside of our space-time metric, that are atemporal and have massive ability to manipulate and alter our reality or our consciousness or our perception of reality. Not saying that's what it is, just an interesting data point that I think we just need to look at. You know what I mean? Not saying that that's what it is. What the fuck? So the mainstream media is finally scratching the surface of what the UAP and alternative propulsion communities have known for years. The race for clean, independent fuel propulsion energy is a high-stakes, dangerous frontier as investigative journalists push local authorities for the release of Shaffer's full autopsy, toxicology reports, and jail intake logs. We will be tracking every single document that drops, because the truth doesn't belong in a classified vault, and it shouldn't cost researchers their lives. If you want to keep tracking this investigation as the paper trail unfolds, hit the subscribe, share this video to break the algorithm silence, and drop your thoughts in the comments below, man. Watch the skies and keep watching for the truth. You watch UAP Truth 33. This is Touching the Third Rail. Until tomorrow, peace.